The Chinese Music Composition Center was founded by the Central Conservatory of Music, CCOM, in 2017. The professors from the CCOM Composition Department were commissioned at the invitation of the center. Among them were internationally renowned composers and musicians from the younger generation. In 2018, the first 13 works commissioned by the Chinese Music Composition Center were debuted at the Lincoln Center in New York, United States. The concert marked the first time that 13 Chinese composers debuted their contemporary works as a group on an international stage. The compositions featured well-combined Chinese and Western musical characteristics and contained a mix of traditional Chinese musical instruments and Western chamber orchestra. In the beginning of winter in 2019, New York audiences welcomed the CCOM Symphony Orchestra. Under the baton of Professor Yu Feng, the president of CCOM, the orchestra debuted concertos for Chinese traditional musical instruments composed by 8 composers from the center in Carnegie Hall. At 8:00 p.m., the concert started. Ling Lai, Listen to the Sounds of Nature, composed by Jia Guoping, imagined the sounds of nature and presented an idyllic scene with nature and humanity inoculated as a whole. The Cloud River, a concerto for Zhang and orchestra, was composed by Qin Wenchen. By using the harmonic features of a sheng, a Chinese reed instrument, the composer integrated the unique instrument with Western orchestra ingeniously. The music depicts varied, multicolored clouds moving like a river from his imagination.
云川呢是一部声协奏曲，这是2017年华沙之秋音乐节的一部违约作品。当时呢就是华沙之秋来委员我的时候呢，就脱口而出我说写声协奏曲，因为这也是我一个很长时间的一个想法。我在想，就是笙是一件非常古老的这个中国的传统乐器，它从这个战国的时候呢就 已经非常这个流行。我想这么一件古老的乐器，横跨了这个几千年，到今天，我们能不能够把这个乐器在这个表现上能够更大的拓宽？所以我就接受了这个挑战啊。那么生呢，实际上在写作的时候呢，还是遇到了很多技术和这个艺术上的困难啊，因为这个乐器本身的这种局限性，它的这个声音传递吧，还有就是旋律不是它的强项等等这些局限性，那么还是给这个创作呢造成很大的这个困难。那这部作品就是在《花纱之秋》上映以后，是引起了很大的反响。我相信这个作品它也是，就是声协奏曲啊，为数不多的几部声协奏曲这个之一的这个比较这个具有挑战性的作品，它把声的表现推到了一个这个也算是到目前为止是一个极致啊。从名字上来讲，银川是跟云彩有关系，而且就跟这个名字一样，它是表现了这个大自然的一种精神和力量。
The Dream, a Peony Pavilion for bamboo flute and orchestra, was composed by Hao Weiya. The theme is from traditional Chinese instruments that originated from south of the Chengjiang River in China, together with Chinese bamboo flute music. The work presents the elegance of Chinese culture.
This is a very good opportunity. 然后我等于中央音乐学院集体亮相，有作曲家，对吧？作品这是集体，然后有非常棒的乐团，还有我们的院长指挥家新一代，所以这是中央音乐学院在美国的一次集体亮相。这个亮相已经不仅仅是一个作品的，代表了中国音乐界的一个整体的发展和我们音乐创作、表演全方面的表现。而且这次院里选择的作品呢，也都相对来说比较成熟的作品，也很有影响力。所以我们在表演上的流畅和音乐上的完整度提高。我相信从观众的掌声，以后大家能感觉到对于我们音乐的这个赞赏。
The Beautiful Villages by Ye Xiaogong describe the earth-shaking changes in Chinese villages and a new spiritual aspect of its people in the new era.
2020年是咱们国家扶贫攻坚战的最后一年，《美丽乡村》的这个作品是我多年来考察中国农村的情况以后由古而化写的这么一个作品。它描绘了在新时代中中国农村发生的翻天覆地的变化，以及广大的人民群众在这片土地上的新的精神面貌。这个是完全是由感而发。那么看来在美国的演出反响也非常好。这个作品在中国也好几次的演出，大家都很喜欢，因为它尽管有学术性，但是还可兼顾了广大人民群众的可听性，他们的欣赏程度。所以呢，我觉得一个艺术家做这样的艺术尝试是非常有必要的，也是很有价值的。因为作品最终是要历史来评定的，是要人民来认可的。
Cong Cai was composed by Tong Jianping by using Cong and Cai, the two most standard and strong sounds of major tones in Chinese percussion. This work praises people's unity and willingness to overcome difficulties when they fought against SARS.
这次特别有幸到卡内基去演我的打击乐协奏曲唱才，这个作品是2003年创作的。这个作品为什么叫唱才呢？中国打击乐当中有两种声音是最有名的，其实有3个声音，一个是咚咚咚，唱唱唱，踩踩踩。所以我在写的时候，我发现我离不开唱唱唱、踩踩踩这2个声音，那就叫唱才。唱才它有什么样一种题材意义？当年大家都知道中国大地发生一件重大的事情，震撼世界的非典。非典呢，我们停课了。 京汉街道上跑的救护车呀什么的，过去。那个时候你感叹人的生命那么脆弱，是吧？这时候我觉得我这个作品纪念这个我们大地上出现的这次灾难性的事件，而且它的歌颂是歌颂什么？人类生生不息的精神，战胜这样的意志，我们一夜之间就建成了一个医院，在那个时候，我觉得这是了不起。所以我觉得它是一种生命对抗灾难的这样一个精神，唱和才这种力量，它就是驱邪驱恶，人精神自我这种成长坚定不息的这样一个精神。
The Pipa Concerto, Sleeve Dagger and Warriors by composer Chen Danbu is based on a historical story, The Emperor and the Assassin. It shows the spirit of defending a motherland and being brave in sacrifice.
这个作品是叫《绣剑与铜甲金戈》。绣剑它的意思就是藏在那个袖子里面的一种武器，它是一个近身搏斗的武器。铜甲金戈大家知道，古代武士、古代的兵士们使用这战争的一种武器。另外，这个音乐的表现的题材呢，也是咱们中国非常古老的一个历史的题材，就是以战国末期这个秦国统一中国在这个过程当中在各国征战时期的表现出来，叫荆轲刺秦，是吧？为了这个保家卫国，勇于牺牲自己的一个牺牲精神，我觉得这是咱们传承下来的主要一个精神。所以我的作品呢，是主要描写这里头的一些情节，情节主要取材于当时这个历史故事的一个易水河溯溪，在易水河边呢，太子丹荆轲的一些为他溯溪，当然还有后来设计的众将士武士操练表决心保家卫国这么一个，所以后面很大的一个场面。
The orchestral work Black Light by composer Cheng Ping expresses thought and exploration of nature, science, mankind, and the universe through music.
从创世纪这部交响套曲，黑光呢是其中的一个乐章。我认为当代的艺术家嘛，应该去关注科学的发展，关注世界的本源，关注这个世界和人类的关系，这些内容，这些科学的变化，科学的进步，都影响到了我的创作，影响到了我对整个世界的重新思考。所以呢，这些问题终结起来了，归纳到我的作品当中。这个《创世纪》的组曲呢，有4个乐章组成。有的内容呢，比如其中一个乐章《创世纪》，是跟圣经有关系，从哲学的角度找到一些启示。然后黑光呢，是从自然的角度，比如说这个宇宙的黑洞、宇宙的整个构成，还有一个叫起点，还有一个作品起点。起点呢是从这个科学的角度去认识这个世界。还有一部作品叫优雅的宇宙。这是从其他的人文的角度来关心整个去了解社会、了解这个世界，就是更多的是考虑人类本源问题、科学发展、人运的问题。这样，我觉得这是我这些年更关注的一个视角。
The title, Chongkongshan, Sorrowful, Desolate Mountain. Op 18B for bamboo flutes and orchestra by composer Guo Wenjing is based on the poet Li Bai's long poem, Difficult Roads in Shu. The 3 movements are elegant, hazy, and majestic to depict the steep landscapes of the mountains and rivers in the Bashu area.
作品是一首这个中国竹笛和西洋管弦乐队的协奏曲，叫《愁空山》。愁空山这3个字是从李白的那个长诗《蜀道难》中间的一句。 因为我出生在四川，我喜欢通过音乐来描写西南地区的那些崇山峻岭，还有江河急流。这个协奏曲分为3个乐章，在这3个乐章当中，描写了这个《蜀道难》这首长诗当中的各种不同的场景。这个作品20多年来就是这个在世界各地演出，使这个世界各地的听众了解到了中国当代音乐，也了解到了中国的传统文化，也了解到中国最古老的乐器竹笛。所以说我觉得我自己是很喜欢这个作品。
The entire concert received high praise from audiences in the United States. The integrated performance of Chinese and Western music preserved the distinctive Chinese national characteristics in the music. These composers kept the cultural traditions, artistic interest, and academic composition to their works as well.
And I see a lot of the Chinese landscape in this music. I really hear it, and just a lot of the history and the culture I feel is really represented in this music, at least for me.
The West has long been interested in Chinese music. I remember seeing performances of the Peking Opera and Qin, a kind of Chinese zither, when I was in college more than 20 years ago. My interest grew during a visit to Beijing when I saw instruments I'd never seen before, such as the moon guitar. At the same time, Westerners have enjoyed contemporary Chinese music through movies and video games, and as an important adjunct to Tai Chi practice and Ccom. But in recent years, the interest of Westerners in Chinese music has really taken off. Hoping to bring more diversity to the world of classical music, Western audiences are welcoming Chinese musicians such as the Central Conservatory of Music, Symphony Orchestra of Beijing. This orchestra is opening a window to the world of enthusiastic classical music composition by China's leading composers and a new generation eager to share their music with the rest of the world. Let's focus on this particular orchestra and how they use their platform at New York's famous Carnegie Hall to showcase Chinese musical talent. The concert took place in December 2019 and featured 8 works by Chinese composers, including 6 world premieres. Feng Yu, considered one of China's leading conductors who has performed throughout Europe, led the 70-member orchestra in an evening of robust music making. For many, the long program opened eyes and ears to a vital new world of composition and performance, incorporating instruments such as the erhu, sheng, and pipa. The compositions explored a wide range of musical sensibilities, from the tender lyricism of Zhao Ganye's The Backyard of the Village to the harsh, wild discords of Inner Mongolian composer Wen Chenqin's The Cloud River Concerto for Sheng. The orchestra itself follows a Western model: strings, winds, brass, percussion, with musicians in formal concert attire and women accounting for about a quarter of the ensemble. The sound of this orchestra is full, assertive, and responsive to the very different characteristics and visions of the 8 works. You selected what may have been the most interesting and accessible work to open the program, Guo Ping Jia's Listen to the Sounds of Nature. Not surprisingly, the theme of nature was strong throughout the program, which could have been marketed as a concert to raise awareness for the environment. Jia's extraordinary ear has produced a wonder-filled work of program music, developing from a first faint whisper of bells and harp through the swelling of forest sounds, different types of birds, crickets, peepers, swarming bees. The music expanded like the sunrise, towering over a landscape crazed with energetic humming, whirring, and chattering sounds. Although women may have been absent as composers on this program, they achieved superstar status as performing soloists. Zhang holds a master's degree in an instrument many Western listeners have never heard, the sheng. This is a handheld vertical reed instrument with a mouthpiece, creating an impressive array of tones and effects. It looks like a little Gothic tower and sounds like a mashup of the harmonica, portative organ, and Indian harmonium. This is one of the few Chinese traditional instruments that play several tones simultaneously, allowing us to experience the savory chordal progressions that exist in Chinese harmonic theory. Wen Chenqin's Cloud River score is dramatic, sometimes violent, as the listener imagines fast-moving clouds speeding over a storm-swept river. Chang Zhan gave a virtuosic performance in Dambu Chen's Sleeve, Dagger, and Warriors, a work as fierce as its title. He played the pipa, a lute-like instrument which has a flat, thin body rather than a rounded, gourd-like shape. The sound of the plucked or strung strings may lack the resonance of the guitar, but has an urgent, scampering quality, like raindrops tapping on a tin roof. These new works offer a sampler of the innovative creations of today's Chinese musical talent. China's contemporary composers are bringing a fresh new voice to classical music at a time when concert venues would otherwise be struggling to attract new audiences. This infusion of energy, imagination, and quality work promises to stimulate creativity and lead to a greater understanding and communication between East and West.
这些作曲家因为是不是中国人，他们具有东方式的习惯。这些作品可以说是作曲家们现在他们最高的这个是面向现在面向世界面向未来的这些创作。
Based on the promotion of the original compositions in 2019, the Central Conservatory of Music Press published all 13 works. The Central Conservatory of Music Press has a long-term partnership with the internationally renowned publishing house, Edition Peters. Together, they will release the international version of the score collection in 2021.
要把这个民族性要放到一个世界性的一个范围，放到一个更广阔的这个视域里面来看它的独特性。我觉得这个可能更有参照，更有意思。
We are delighted to be joining you from Leipzig, Germany, and from New York, USA. First of all, some introductions. I am Linda Hawkin, Managing Director of Edition Peters Europe.
And I am Catherine Knight, President of CF Peters in New York.
Edition Peters' reputation for publishing the best in contemporary classical music is unsurpassed and has defined the company since its very beginnings in the early 1800s. It published the works of groundbreaking composers Beethoven, Mendelssohn, Schumann, Wagner, Grieg, and so many more. These were all era-defining contemporary composers in their time, and all were published by Edition Peters.
Edition Peters' commitment to contemporary music continued into the 20th century, developing a roster of composers that is broad, diverse, and impressive. The New York company was a trailblazer of cutting-edge composition with John Cage, George Crumb, Milton Babbitt, Morton Feldman, Christian Wolff, and Charles Wuorinen. It maintains that reputation with the recent signings of George Lewis and Ashley Fury. We have been working closely with our publishing colleagues in Beijing at the Central Conservatory of Music Press. Over the past 7 years, in a wide variety of ways, we have developed projects of important cultural exchange between East and West. But it is in the area of contemporary music that we can make the most significant progress in living cultural exchange between East and West. As outlined earlier, Edition Peters' reputation for contemporary music is second to none. And the Chinese composers we will be working with sit alongside the very best in contemporary music composition in the rest of the world. In April 2019, we proudly launched together the groundbreaking Edition Peters project, featuring the music of leading Chinese composers. This project is of immense significance to Edition Peters. It offers us the chance to showcase the music of Chinese composers outside of China to the rest of the world, sitting alongside the music of our existing roster of composers.
The quality of the composition is of the highest standard. Most importantly, the use of Chinese traditional instruments performing within a standard Western orchestral setup offers musicians and listeners the opportunity to enter a new and refreshing sound world. The music industry outside China operates in a strict copyright environment. By working with a leading publisher, such as Edition Peters, to publish the works of Chinese composers within that complex business environment, the Central Conservatory of Music Press could be certain that orchestras, conductors, and performers would have the confidence to program the works of Chinese composers outside China. We're absolutely delighted to announce that Edition Peters will publish the new works launched in this presentation and launch event today, working alongside our colleagues at CCMP in Beijing. This next phase in our joint cooperation signals the serious intent of Edition Peters and CCMP to forge unprecedented, long-standing, genuine links between East and West into the future, showcasing to the world the very best in contemporary music within China.
Many wonderful civilizations were created by the exchange and integration between Chinese and Western musical thoughts. Comprised of musicians from the symphony orchestras of the University of Music and Performing Arts Vienna and the Central Conservatory of Music, the Chinese Music Composition Center will conduct a performing tour in Europe in 2021. The beautiful Chinese music will be heard in the Grosser Schall Inn, Wiener Concert House, and the main festivities hall in Vienna City Hall.
University of Music and Performing Arts Vienna and the Ccom Central Conservatory of Music Beijing are linked by a long and intensive cooperation. More than that, as two of the largest and most renowned music universities in the world, one in the East, the other one in the West, we are united in our striving for musical excellence and in our commitment to providing the best possible conditions for our students. The exchange between the cultures and the musical traditions of our nations is a precious experience for the students of our universities. I'm therefore particularly pleased that MDV students are given the opportunity to experience the Chinese musical tradition and to receive impulses for their artistic development at the CCOM through cooperations, stays abroad, and masterclasses. I'm also pleased to regularly welcome students from the CCOM, Central Conservatory of Music Beijing, to deepen their studies with us at the MDV. It's not only an enrichment for the musical education of students, but also for a cross-border understanding of art and culture and for a connection between the Western and the Eastern world. Our two universities form a joint orchestra in 2021 to perform a musical dialogue of Western and Chinese repertoire at the highest artistic level. And especially in these globally challenging days, in the face of public restrictions, closed borders, and closed institutions, our joint orchestra is the most beautiful evidence that culture knows no borders and always remains open.
还有音乐带给我们美好和希望，让我们一起聆听未来。